think could be done differently or new areas to expand upon. Certainly the things we're sourcing today, we're seeing great success, but we want to do more complex type work here in India. And we're committed to getting Indian industry more of that complex work. Assemblies, sub-assemblies, electronic equipment, and even in the raw material arena as well. So we've indigenized, the products that we move over here, we indigenize about 85%, but these are the last few areas. And once we're able to do that, I think the sky's the limit as far as exports for India.
Okay, so that's a long wish list. And let's hope India and Indian industry meets your expectations. But Amber, I want to ask you, having been in the Ministry of Civil Aviation, having been with KPMG, there is an area where I am far from satisfied. And I think the fault doesn't lie with just the foreign industry. I think there is a fault in drafting the rules and terms of engagement for what we call this whole area, which is about the offset policy. You know, ladies and gentlemen, just for your understanding, the thumb rule for offset is that whatever India buys, for instance, from Lockheed Martin, they need to plow back 30% of that money back into the Indian industry. Now, Karnataka is looking for investment. Karnataka is looking to be a global player. It is already a global player in so many ways. But how can we further enhance the investment from our foreign defense partners under the umbrella of offset policy? Because with that, I would like to see, at least, as somebody who's interested in the defense sector, good transfer of technology, because we can't make everything overnight. Any views?
No, thank you so much for the question, Maroof Saab. I'll answer this in three parts. First is, why are the offsets not working? Because most of us know that most of the offsets deals have actually gone into litigation. Perhaps maybe the whole contract needs to be rethought and renegotiated. We need to sit with, these are all partners. I mean, Safran, Lockheed, Boeing, Airbus, these are all partners who've been with us as part of a national security ecosystem. We have to work with them, work out the kinks. If the constitution can be amended so many times, surely these contracts can be. That's on the offsets front. Second question, let's take it a little higher. Why are we even looking at offsets as the key driver of bringing in high tech here? Let's look at collaboration for the sake of collaboration and to create a win-win opportunity. A lot of things which Lockheed, and I don't want to get into specific projects, they've done without any offset requirement because they saw a win-win. An equipment which they made in Adi Batla, I'm told, gave them a 26 or 27% price advantage over doing the same thing in US. So let money be the key driver. Money is the one which moves the world. And that should be the key driver. The techno-economic viability of that project, that should drive collaboration and high-tech. And my last point, sir, is it should drive collaboration and high-tech. And my last point, sir, is I know time is short, is that we have to now also go beyond this concept of TOT. There's nothing called TOT. 70 years we've been doing TOT. There's nothing called TOT. Nobody's going to give you his hard-earned research, even for a few billion or $1 million. We have to, as Indians, work together. We're doing it in different fields. Yes, we will collaborate with our foreign friends. We respect them a lot. But expecting TOT to happen and drive India forward into the next level of technological development, I have my doubts. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, that's a standard argument that we've heard for years, that the strategic technology that all R&D has given to those countries who are the big players in the defense circuit will not be passed on to you. Then what can we expect from our partners in industrial growth from overseas? Your company, Safran, is well known to provide India a number of essentials, engine parts, for example, engines, and even in some cases other technologies, especially in aerospace world. Where do you see your arrangement with India expanding further? Where do you see the roadblocks?
Well, To start with, when I came to India, the roadmap I was given by Safran was to develop the Make in India. And I'd like to come back a little bit backwards in the 70s. In the 70s, Safran had transferred the technology of the launchers, the VCAS, to India, a full TOT, which has led India to be fully autonomous in the space launching field of activity. This is what we are aiming at also. There are many ways to support India. There are many ways to create the ecosystem in India. The overall objective here is to create a full ecosystem. This ecosystem should support design, development, production, and support MRO. So we should focus on all the various items. Ground is here in India. There are many, many, many opportunities. Civil aviation is booming. India will be the third largest market in civil aviation in the next coming years. The military needs are huge, so the ground is here to set up a real collaboration, a real partnership. We've done this already with HAL on the helicopter engine, and I think you can say if this is a success to our side, it is a success. We're very happy to do this. All the helicopter flying and being manufactured in India are flying with HAL and Safran engines. And this is just what we would like to continue in the future. We're here to set up a full supply chain in India. We are here to support India. Recently, Safran has announced the setting up of an MRO facility to do the MRO of civil engine. This is also transfer of technology, transfer of know-how. This is how we think we can grow the collaboration.
Okay, so once again, your optimism for growth in India comes out in your comments. I'll come back to you to ask you to give me some examples where your working relationship has been smooth, and give me some examples, and be honest about it, where you've had problems, so that then I can move to the MD of HAL. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sitting next to the MD of HAL, and I would like just to give an example where the collaboration has been very smooth. About 10 years ago, we have set up a JV here in Bangalore, which is a 50-50% JV between HAL and Safran, which is doing the piping for the civil engine. Almost all the pipings of the CFM56 were done by the JV. Most of the piping of the LEAP engine are being done by this JV. Recently, we have moved the existing facility to a new place, and we have doubled the size of this facility. Just to show you that we have grown up smoothly and successfully and have been achieving an extension which shows how business is growing and how the partnership is making this possible.
Okay, good, good. So I automatically, Mr. Ananthakrishnan, now the big boulders on your chest. Now I need you to address two issues. One is defense public sector undertakings have always enjoyed the blessings of the Ministry of Defense, because defense public sector undertakings were initially set up for defense requirements. But there is a challenge that you are faced with now. And this challenge comes with the Prime Minister and the Raksha Mantri's vision of exporting. You have made a first-class aircraft, Tejas. I have always been an admirer of the Tejas project. Years ago, when everyone said it causes time delays, time lags, I kept saying, don't blame them. Blame the slow-moving files in South Block for that. But now, you have a challenge in front of you. One, in Argentina, your product, Tejas, is being tested against the Chinese and to some extent, Pakistan involvement in the J-17 fighter. And the other example is that you have the Tejas, which has been ordered in large numbers by the Indian Air Force. And it was the same IAF, if I may be corrected, who in earlier years expressed some concern and skepticism about the Tejas. How did you overcome both these challenges?
Yeah, first, good afternoon to all of you. Thanks for this opportunity. I think he has posed some challenging questions to me, so which I will try to address to the best extent possible. Yes, there have been some concerns in the initial part of Tejas when it was getting designed and developed, and there were some delays. We do agree to that. The design agency, of course, was the aeronautical design agency of part of DRDO, where HAL also has been associated. But that was because basically there was initially the design program was way back in 60s. We did design an aircraft. And after that, for whatever strategic reasons, there was a design lag. I mean, in the capability build-up, there was a lag. And again, the Tejas was a program which was taken up after a lapse of almost 2 decades. So there, again, we will have to start from scratch and we will have to build up the aircraft and design an aircraft now that the experience is behind us. And we are now in a much better position to design a fighter aircraft much faster, the next advanced jet, which we are planning to do that. So, but as far as the Tejas program is concerned, now that the aircraft has been proven and the confidence which the customer has got in this Tejas aircraft is also reflected in the fact that the recent order for 83 LCA got concluded. And based on that, we have also the international also, the country, other countries also started looking at Tejas as a very possible option of the fighter jet programs of theirs. And we have been competing in the international business in the very aggressive way in the recent past. And in fact, there have been leads which has come up from many countries, and Argentina is one of the countries. Malaysia has been the other, where we had submitted the code, and we have one of the shortlisted countries out of 6 countries. 2 countries have been shortlisted, and HAL Tejas has been one. And technically, we are far superior. We are still fighting it out with the other competitor from Korea. So we are hopeful that we will be able to get a breakthrough order. And as far as Argentina is concerned, the 2 teams have come over here. They have flown the aircraft, both on the, including helicopters. They are quite comfortable with the product which has been produced by HAL. Even though the JF-17 of China is, it's trying to break through there. Our product has been found acceptability, and they are now very seriously looking into HAL Tejas as well. So this is the story of Tejas, and we hope that once we get a breakthrough order, this is an aircraft which is going to stay for the next 2-3 decades.
Okay, good luck to you, sir. And I think we should all hope for that, because just to make some of you understand that any product that is made for military usage should be usable for at least 40 years. Because anything less than that, I know even the best of cars that you buy, international cars, big brands that you buy for some rich industrialist would buy, wouldn't hope to ride it for 40 years. But fighter aircrafts are expected to be airborne and operational 30, 40 years. In some cases, like the MiG-21, 60 years plus. But that's a world record in its own capacity. Back to you, Vincent. I want you to explain to us, where is it that big aircraft manufacturers like your company, Lockheed Martin, would feel threatened by the giant steps that HAL hopes to make and the giant steps that the Indian government has mandated for the Indian industry to take, suddenly to try and reach a target of 35,000 crores, which is about $5 billion worth of exports. Now that's a huge jump, considering that I think in the last several decades, we haven't come to that number. So I don't know how we hope to achieve that over the next 5 years. And if we do, does it eat into your business?
Certainly there's always the threat of that, and we take that very seriously. But we also come from a culture of competition to improve oneself and to improve the overall product. So while I don't know that we would use the word threaten per se, and I don't mean that in a negative, what I mean is that there's always opportunity for improvement. And the more choices a government has, the more everyone has to improve, including Lockheed Martin. And so we welcome that. We're always looking to get better. We can always make a better product more affordably, more usable for the end user as well. So we would welcome that because it is an opportunity for us to become a better company, to better serve our customers. And look, if for whatever reason the Indian government goes a different way and goes away from Lockheed Martin, there still will be business opportunities to partner with HAL and others, and we would of course welcome that.
So good. Just an add-on question. If you feel so strongly about working in cohesion or in tandem with Indian industry like the HAL, I got the impression that some members of your fraternity weren't very happy when India chose to buy a non-American fighter aircraft for its fleet. Could you expand on that?
I don't know who that is or who would say that, but it's perhaps not surprising. Of course, we can be very possessive of what we would consider our territory or our turf. But look, the sovereign governments of India and other nations, they're free to choose this type of thing. And we've built a reputation and a history of being upfront, being ethical, being honest, and trying to be a true partner to India.
Okay, so good. That's good sportsmanship spirit, I would say. So, Amber, I come to you now. You know, we've been talking about technology that would traditionally be used in a kinetic-centric conflict. For those of you, if that is a heavy-duty term, it basically means if the adversary decides to use land and air forces and even maritime forces against you, you probably go and respond with the same kind of warfare platforms, but with greater punch. But the entire debate now, ladies and gentlemen, is shifting to the non-kinetic area. And the two areas are cyber and drone warfare. Amber Dubey has whispered in my ear, if I heard him correctly, that his speciality is to look at drone warfare. And drones in the last 2-3 years have been playing havoc with top-of-the-line military technology. Earlier in the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, where China and Turkey, being the big drone manufacturers, were having a big smile on their face, seeing what it could do to Russian equipment. And now American drones have done again to Russian equipment in Ukraine. How is it that our armed forces that are heavily laden with Russian equipment are going to quickly prepare for a similar challenge if it comes our way from China, which, as is now the norm, is one of the largest producers even of drones, just like it is of air conditioners and cell phones and whatever else. So your views on drone warfare, how that is going to alter the entire planning and narrative for future conflict and therefore the aerospace and defense industry.
Fantastic question, Maroof. First of all, let me clarify, I'm not a specialist, I'm just a student of drones. Drone warfare is there it's there and it's the future of warfare. And maybe 10 years down the line, I'll be very doubtful if there would be any fighter jets. The fighter jets will actually be flown by fighter pilots who are on the ground or maybe even underground. And the recent examples that the chairperson spoke about, I mean, these are live examples where centuries of history was changed in 3 days because one country used drones which the other country didn't have a response to. The same thing could happen. I mean, we saw evidences of that in Galwan also. There was no combat drones, but a lot of surveillance was done on both sides over the hill kind of views because it's a sparse area and you have limited resources. You can't just put a soldier or a unit on every mountain top. So drones there on both sides played a very, very big role. And this is going to be the future. Bangalore itself is not only just the aerospace capital, the IT capital, and now it's almost become the drones capital. Obviously, you're getting a lot of competition from Hyderabad, Chennai, and up north from the national capital region. But this is where, and all the youngsters who are sitting at the back, I guess you are the future. The soldiers are going to create those world quality drones. Anything specific you want me to expound on?
I want you to expound on two things regarding drones. One, how do you counter drones? Because now, like Siberian cranes that come in swarms in the winters when it's too cold in Siberia to our sanctuaries, drones also come in swarms. But they are controlled by some masters within that swarm that are carrying chips within them and that allow them to move in a pattern. So how do you counter that pattern?
No, absolutely, fantastic question. So there are two ways to it. First, I need to know who the enemy is. Where is he coming from? What size is he? So I need to have the surveillance drone. So it's a combination of both the satellite, ground-based and drone-based surveillance. Then I find out this is the nature of the incoming fleet. And then I have to have a counter fleet which can go. Now either you can cut them off in a soft kill method where you spoof them or you hack them and neutralize them, or it could be the hard kill. If it gets too close for comfort, then you go for the hard kill, where you either kill it from a distance, or you do the kamikaze part, which you saw in Azerbaijan and also in Ukraine, where you go and bang into it. So there are various measures of it. I'm definitely not an expert on all, but there's a lot of research which is happening. And to talk about our friendly northern neighbor, which is obviously up to mischief many times, the only way out is if you send 10,000, I'm going to send 50,000. That 1:5 approach is the only counter which I can think of. Thank you so much.
I'll open it up to Q&A later. Let the speakers give us their wisdom. I'll come back to you on, having been Joint Secretary Civil Aviation, what are the measures that the Ministry of Civil Aviation has taken? What can it take to make the usage of drones easier for the industry? I'll come back to you later on that. Now, I want you to explain, Pierre, that there are a lot of Gulf countries that are getting into defense manufacturing, I believe. Within them, India is being seen as a potential rival in some cases and a potential partner in some cases. Since your company has a global footprint in defense aerospace manufacturing, have you had any sense of that, and can you enlighten us on that?
Well, you're right. Many countries who are interested in defense activity are also willing to be to acquire the capacity to manufacture, develop, and so on. As I told you, I'm here in India. I'm pushing for developing the Make in India and meeting Atmanirbhar Bharat. And I think this is a very, very interesting program. I'll come back on this. If India wants to be a partner to other countries who are importing, and if India wants to sell its capabilities to other countries, I think first I would suggest that India should first concentrate on developing the full self-reliance, acquiring the knowledge, working first on that step, because I think it's a two-step approach. First, develop the self-reliance capacity, then move on to the next step. And there's nothing hidden beside this. France, we at Safran, we started 100 years ago. And the first trend was to meet the French defense requirements. We've developed our capacity, we've developed the technology. On that basis, once we were able to sustain our self-reliance, then we went and were trying to be partner, abroad with foreign countries. This is what we're trying now to do with India since the 60s, where we started to work with HAL, 17s working in this space, and nowadays we're working in the defense industry. So I think really we should go on a step by step. I was talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Bharat is a wonderful project because it is giving the authorities, it is giving the DPSUs and also the foreign OEMs the means to move toward that direction. I'll go a little bit away from the defense and I'll join the civil side on one side. When I came here, Safran was on the edge to set up an MRO facility in Asia. Me coming to India, I told everyone, let's go and make it India instead of Asia. And everybody was just telling me this is going to be impossible. GST is, just getting the Indian non-competitive to the MRO. I think we've worked a lot with the Civil Aviation Ministry. And under Atmanirbhar Bharat, because Atmanirbhar Bharat also starts with civil and moves to the military.
Absolutely.
Under this push, we've been successful with the full support of Civil Aviation Ministry, of the Defense Ministry as well, of Finance Ministry, to get a new rule on the GST for MRO. This is how we've managed to set up now a facility here in India to do all the MRO of the civil engines. So this is how we'll move again as well. And once this is done, then, capacity to be a partner to the export country will be possible.
Yes, and in support of the Government of India's vision and initiatives, I must add that at least in the last 1 year, many of the rules for licensing, many of the regulations for investing in Indian companies and co-partnership, and things like how to jointly produce items of use in India, these rules have been eased off. It is much easier, I believe, to make partnerships and investments in India happen.
You're absolutely right. If I may just comment on what you say. Civil aviation, we can have now a full 100% FDI here in India. Military in the past was in the 27, moved to 49, and now is 74%
Yes.
FDI, which is automatically granted.
And in some cases, it's 100%.
In specific cases, we can go up to 100%. But this is also the way to push the foreign OEM to come, transfer technology, set up facilities. For Safran, I was talking about the JV which we have with HAL here, which is a 50-50% JV, which was doing all the piping of CFM56 worldwide. So it was a pure export. Just one more point. Thanks to this 100% FDI position, we've been also able to set up other facilities building up parts for LEAP engines for all over the world as well. So that policy is key to acquire technologies.
Okay, well done, well done. So we are on the same page. And Mr. Ananthakrishnan, now here is a big challenge for you. Based on the assertions made by our speakers, for too long, our DPSUs, HL's the king amongst them, have enjoyed a kind of captive audience within the armed forces. You assemble all the Sukhoi jets for India, for example, and have been a bit wary, if not more than a bit wary, of private industry entering into the defense space. Can you explain to us, would that be a good idea even for well-established giants like HAL? Or would you suggest that the private industry comes in small baby initiatives and see how public-private partnership works? And if it works, we open the door for the larger thing. Or because time is of a premium, we have to catch up, you go the whole hog immediately. What's your view?
First place, I don't see it as a challenge. It's an opportunity for us because we don't see private sector anymore as our competitor. We want to see them as our collaborator. The reason being that today the two buzzwords which are doing in the defense industry, the landscape which has changed is, one is your self-reliance and Atmanirbhar Bharat. The second one is the make for India and also make for the world, the global manufacturing hub, which means there are tremendous opportunities being opened up in the Indian defense industry, which we are very sure and we are very confident that there is enough space for every other industry to be operating in. It should not be that only the public sector will be able to do, because the opportunities are plenty. We would like to see that the private sector also plays a big role, because ultimately it is the objective of the country to become a global manufacturing hub which needs to be achieved. Having said that, we are very much keen to open up with the private and start working with them. And we have initiated certain of our major projects which we are planning to come up, like the medium role helicopter and then the other AMCA programs. We wanted to work with the private industry right from the design stage. All through it has been only at the manufacturing stage people have started looking into private industry. But now we feel that it should be right from design stage, we should start work from them so that the IPR can be developed within the country. Probably if we need support from the foreign defense, OEMs, we can take help from them. But all in all, we are very much keen to see that we join hands with private industry to make the country self-reliant and also become a global manufacturing hub. Because we feel that our efficiencies are in capacities and capabilities which we have built over 5 to 6 decades. Private sector has got certain capabilities in the form of entrepreneurial efficiencies to be more agile and aggressive. So if you are going to synergize both these capabilities, I think exciting days are to come.
Let's hope so that happens, because one of the points very important international news magazine had made, that one way that India can rapidly move forward in defense and aerospace is to adapt the work culture of the private industry in the government-owned enterprises. And if that work culture sets in, where deadlines are met, where ruthlessness has to be exercised if you are going to achieve your objectives, and there is going to be very little chance for a sorry or runners-up prize, then I think we are on the right lines. I'm for it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am looking at the clock. I've done very well with time. I have time for a few questions. I would, if the audience is interested, quickly ask you to make short questions, no statement. And if you can identify who you would like your question answered by, we can open up to 3 questions before we give them time for closing remark. You had raised your hand, sir, first. So don't wait for a mic. I can hear you. Just get up and speak. Oh, hi.
Now, the moot point which is there is that we were talking about drone technology, and my friend used very sophisticated terms to explain hard kill and soft kill. Basically, what we need to develop is jammers so that we can intercept the network, or you would need lasers. That's for the hard kill. And currently, the only nation which seems to have done that is Israel. Unless you move in that kind of a direction and that kind of a perspective, you're going to always have a shortfall. Please think what you want to say, how we are going to reach that level.
Okay, one question. Any more questions? Yes, sir. Please quickly ask your question and identify yourself if you can.
Hello, sir. I'm Paris. I've left Amazon to start my own firm. We build ML models. So my question to you is, Indian entrepreneurs have done so much in the tech industry, but we still see the defense sector particularly lacking from an Indian growth perspective or the Indian ecosystem perspective. Why do you think that is there, considering we have all the brains that are needed to build the most advanced systems that can be made possible?
Who's that question for?
To the
Yeah.
to anyone
Vincent.
who wants to answer.
Okay, Mr. Vincent. Okay.
Yeah,
So 2 questions, one more, and then we go in for answers. I'm just looking at the clock and trying to keep everything to time. Any more questions, please? Yes, lady, please.
Hi, I'm a lawyer. I just wanted to ask, a lot of these cases, so even in defense, in Singapore, etc., come to neutral jurisdictions like Singapore. So they are litigated there, number one, for your point. And secondly, I want to ask you, in those areas and jurisdictions, other places in the world, like America or Israel, there's an integration between their research, their deployment, their military, their civil government, and then their think tanks. So it's a revolving door. There's more of an interconnected and integration. Now, what is the kind of setup in India? Because it's everything, it's all the sum of the parts, but these are all moving parts now. There is a cohesiveness in terms of policy, think tank, research, and they all come together in Israel. And, here there's, even the Chinese, the Hoku system, the man on the top, the man on the bottom. Here, what is that, and what is the way forward to get that integration? Thank you.
Is that question for anybody specific?
To you, Maroof.
Oh my God. Okay. Right. So I'll start with you, Amber. It's about
the soft kill, hard kill. Yes, you're absolutely right. So I have very little to add. The gentleman is very well read and very knowledgeable. So yes, you have to have the jammers to jam it. You also have to identify the right drone. If it's an enemy drone, you have to designate it, because that's why we can't use it at the airports, because sometimes the jammer can end up creating a more collateral damage to fast-moving Indigos and spice jets than the tiny drone which is trying to protect us from. So jammer is so sensitive that you can't even import a jammer. For any use of any jammer anywhere in India, you need approval from the cabinet secretary, and there's a whole team under him which looks after that. So you talked about Israel. Yes, there's lots of collaboration which is happening, can't be shared on this platform, but please rest assured, because we respect this is a country which respects wisdom. Anybody who has more intelligence, wisdom and knowledge, experience, we respect that. That's why two very senior gentlemen are here, more in the audience. So we are collaborating with every possible country that we can. It's happening silently. Our both PSUs and private companies are working with them, and I'm sure something good will come out of it. Yeah. So soft kill is about jammers, hard kill is more about lasers, and all that is being worked upon. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Right, just a sec. Okay. Let the questions finish and then the gentleman behind you can answer. Yes, Vincent, go ahead.
Yes, so I think the question was around the slowness of the industry to adopt or be able to adopt new technologies and the growth of the industry. So there's a couple of factors that go into that. The two governments that we're working with, specifically the United States government and the Indian government, are often bureaucratic and slow. I would use the word deliberate. And so there's oftentimes many debates and discussions about what can be released and what can be transferred. I will tell you within the halls of Lockheed Martin that we are attempting to transfer as much technology as we can, as quickly as we can, and move work over here as fastly as we can. We have to be deliberate as well, because we have to make sure, as we all know, the defense requirements are very stringent and very exacting. And so we have to be very careful about what gets moved, when it gets moved. And then we have complications of what the governments will allow to be moved as well. And oftentimes when we're meeting with the Indian government, we're having to explain the value of the technologies that are being transferred and the value of the work that we're proposing to move over here. It's very easy when you can look at contracts and sales because those are hard numbers on a page. But when you're looking at something more abstract, it is difficult to interpret the value to that. And so it takes time. There is a plan, I know that, between the two governments, and we are certainly behind both governments in getting the work over here to growing the defense industry in India as quickly as we possibly can.
Okay. Okay, ma'am, your question. As I understand, your assertion is that you would need one point where everything from signing of contracts to any post-contract litigation can be attended to, as you have indicated happens in other Asian countries, perhaps I think China was your example. Have I understood it correctly? Okay. Okay, so, you know, if I was to put it in brief, because of time, one is that we are in a phase of transition where earlier we went out and bought what we needed. The process of defense purchases, as you probably would know, is a very prolonged one, and not because of lack of initiative at some levels of people to finally agree on a deal, but even in the fast-moving process of doing a straightforward purchase other than a government-to-government purchase, which is called FMS, you would take 352 weeks upwards to actually pick up top-of-the-line technology going through RFP, NCNC, price shortlisting, and the product arriving on your territory. And that's the best case scenario, which gives it about 5 years. And if you look at the fighter aircraft deal, you're looking at 17 years. Now, how do you telescope that all under a one-window clearance scheme? And if those things don't happen, then what recourse does a manufacturer have to take legal steps? You see, my understanding is that we need to move more rapidly in that area. I don't think we have really got all the paperwork sorted out for how we have to do, because let me give you an example. We have an offset policy. Now, those who drafted the offset policy would thump their chest and say it couldn't have been better than that. But it keeps going through amendments, and even after amendments, it has left a lot of room for satisfaction, because it's not been entirely something that defense companies that are asked to implement the offset policy are happy with. So you need, my suggestion would be that you would need a completely new governmental body which could address these on fast track when there are issues that need to be addressed. I'll give you an example which is connected to respected courts. It would take the normal time that the honorable courts take for all cases. So the honorable courts agreed to and set up something called the Armed Forces Tribunal. Now that fast tracks cases regarding armed forces and leaves a reasonably high room of satisfaction for cases to be addressed. So I think that model could be a model that could be exercised in setting up a tribunal with adequate authority to address and arbitrate over grievances, because a manufacturer from abroad has technology which has come at huge cost of R&D. They're not going to part with it beyond the point. As I understand, HAL will bear me out. Even if you need some high-end changes on the Sukhoi aircrafts that you've been dealing with for at least 3 decades, you still need Russian engineers to come and tinker around and give it the fine-tuning, because there are some secrets they hold. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what we are seeing, that we have to give the manufacturer who has the intellectual property controls the right to be able to decide how much more they will ease out to help India achieve its Atmanirbhar goals, and how much they would like to hold on to, because their USP is the knowledge they have gained through R&D. So I think a middle ground needs to be arrived at. Your question is very good. I tried to use all my defense expertise, whatever little I have, to try and come up with a viable solution. But right now, I don't think a straightforward answer exists. But we need to take steps there, just like we've taken steps in the area of offset policy, defense procurement policy. You know, these things are all processes in the making, and we need to keep moving. But I think those who will be listening will take note of your question, and I'm sure our friends who are supplying us the technology can push this idea forward, that their intellectual concerns are protected, if that answers your question. Right. So I'll give you the last point to make, because nobody's question was pointed at you. Anything you want to say before we wrap up?
We have mentioned many things about how we should move, how India could move to become more self-reliant, to become a strategic partner for export to other countries. We talked about Atmanirbhar Bharat, and you raised a question which is very interesting to me, the offset point, offset policy.
Yeah.
And I would like to conclude with your question, ma'am, as well, that offset policies have been set up and all countries have gone through this process. The more we move forward, the more we think we could use benefit of this offset policy to make it happen, to make it a win-win situation. The offset policies were set up in 2011, 2013, 2016, so various DPPs. But the more we move, the more we see we should adapt them to make them more efficient. I would love that some thoughts are given to this so that we would be, getting more incentive to move forward and get it better for the country. So, and this is in line with what you just said before. Let's keep it open. So offset is here, use it the best possible way and make it the best, and make the best possible use of it to grow the country here and grow the knowledge here.
Well, just for the statistical part, we are hoping in India to draw in offsets, which is essentially investments from companies and countries. It's like mileage you get for multi-frequent flyer or hotel usage. There are points you accumulate with countries who buy your stuff or who sell stuff to you, and then there is a whole process in place. But I think India is hoping for about 13.52 billion worth of offsets over the next 10 years. So that is the measure of what the offset policy can lead to if all goes well. And on that happy note, I hand you back to the Master of Ceremonies.
Challenges to face, promises to keep up, but we always have those inspiring lines and quotes. Atmanirbhar Bharat. Together, we make it happen. Once again, with a very big round of applause, let us thank all our distinguished eminent speakers for such thought-provoking words and all those impressions shared. May we request respected Commissioner, Department of Industry and Commerce, Government of Karnataka, to kindly come up on the dais and present this memento to all our eminent speakers. Srimati Gunjan Krishna on the dais. To VP Lockheed Martin, Vincent Panzera. Heartfelt thanks to you, sir. To CEO, Safran India, Pierre Dickeli. Lateral Joint Secretary, who wrote the drone policy, KPMG, MCA, Amber Dubey. Moderator, Maroof, Raza. Pierre Dickeli now receiving this memento. And our thanks to Acting CMD and Director of Finance and CFO HAL CB Ananthakrishnan. Once again, with a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, let us thank all of them. Thank you so much. Tammellarigu ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. Time for photo opportunity. Thanks once again. And we now move on to our next session, ladies and gentlemen. Please stay back. Please be with us. We will be beginning the next session, ladies and gentlemen. Request all of you to kindly be seated, please. We already have our distinguished speakers for the coming session. Please be seated. We repeat our request, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. And in this session, we will be focusing on future of energy generation in the world, reinventing the energy ecosystem. Requesting you to take your seats. We still see a lot of them moving around. Please. ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಉಪಸ್ಥಿತರಿರಬೇಕು, ಕುಳಿತುಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನುವ ಕೋರಿಕೆ. It's now time for the next session. Please make way. We repeat our request. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to draw your kind attention. It's now time for the next session. ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ತಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಮತ್ತೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತ. Ladies and gentlemen, Invest Karnataka 2022 Global Investors Meet, and the focus this year is on Build for the World. Together we make it happen. This is Karnataka. And now we have this panel discussion on future of energy. This prelude says, technology integration in the energy sector is one of the most important differentiating factors for creating a green future for tomorrow's smart cities. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with the proliferation of EVs, geothermal energy and other renewable sources, yes, the aim is no longer